See these headlines last week? Monday breaks the global record for the hottest ever day on Earth. The hottest ever. Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
How long did that record stand?
A day.
Oh.
Well, I mean, I don't think it really was a record.
Well, it sounds like it's getting hotter every day.
Every day it gets hotter, and every year is hotter than the last. And then the next one is going to be hotter than this one. And if you think that's hot, wait till the year after. Okay, that's what we keep hearing, right? Everything's out of control. It's global warming run amok. And it's happening at a rate that is just breathtaking. We have no chance if we don't stop driving our SUVs. Our SUVs are killing our planet. Just below the surface of the Earth, it's incredibly hot, several million degrees. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's hotter than the surface of the sun.
That's
just underneath the surface
and
of the Earth.
That'll do it. I mean, that'll
yeah.
definitely...
That's going to make things really hot.
Yeah.
Don't dig. You start digging.
Hold on. What's the number to dig? Is it like 611 or what?
Yeah, I think it is.
Don't dig, because we got to make sure you're not gonna, open up the sun in your backyard.
Right.
2 kilometers or so down, in most places there are these incredibly hot rocks, because the interior of the Earth is extremely hot, several million degrees.
Several million degrees.
The crust of the Earth is hot. And
1.2 miles.
Yeah,
down,
1.2 miles down.
It's hotter than
several million degrees.
You think you'd feel that on the surface?
You would.
The snow wouldn't stick anymore.
Yeah, because I mean, the sun. When you get out from the surface and the heat mixes with all the gases that are released, then it gets to about 2 million degrees off of the surface of the sun. And then it comes toward us.
So let me.
Okay. But there's 93 million miles between us and the sun. That's not the case when it's 1.2 miles underneath us.
So hypothetically,
I don't know how we're surviving.
If you flew 1.2 miles from the sun, you're saying it's several million degrees.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So is like the ground that must be
it's hotter than the sun,
but it's insulation. Obviously, who knew that dirt?
Oh my gosh, yeah. If it weren't for dirt,
thank you,
we would all melt.
No wonder
we'd burn to death.
And don't be ridiculous, kids. You can't dig to China. I know you've heard that, but
it can't happen.
Al Gore is explaining that that's clearly impossible. It's too hot.
Otherwise, you could do it.
Otherwise,
but driven by oceans that won't cool down, according to this article, an unseasonably warm Antarctica and worsening climate change, Earth's record hot streak dialed up this past week, making Sunday, then Monday, the hottest days humans have measured, according to the European Climate Service. Okay, so let's take a look at reality.
Okay.
Last week was supposedly the hottest ever day on this planet, at least while man has existed. We know it's been much hotter than this in, millions of years ago. But let's take a look at the all-time statewide high-temperature records, shall we? What meteorologist? This comes from
Chris Martz.
Chris Martz.
And he took this information from your federal government.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Good.
So if anyone has an agenda, it would be the Biden-Harris administration.
Oh, my gosh. No kidding.
So these are record high temperatures for all 50 states.
Okay. So the most recent record high temperatures in these particular states, all 54, all 57, according to Barack Obama.
That's a throwback comment.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Let's see. We got 2021.
Washington State.
In Washington. Okay.
120 degrees just 3 years ago. So that
120. That's hot.
That leads credence to this
it sure does.
Yeah, okay.
And then you've got Colorado, right?
2019,
115 degrees record high all time.
That's toasty.
Colorado.
And South Carolina?
And South Carolina, 2012 is the most recent at 113.
Okay, so you have 3 high temperatures that were set recently, in the last 25 years, since the turn of the century.
Okay.
I would expect all 50 of those records to have been set. I would
too, because it gets hotter every single year.
That's what we're told.
And yet, Montana's high temperature of 117. That just proves climate change right there. And
but when did that happen? Did it happen last week?
1893.
Oh, 1893.
1893. Got to 117 degrees.
Oregon, 1898. I mean, this map is fascinating.
1898, 119.
Wow. So 47 of the 50 all-time state high temperatures all occurred
prior to the
year 2000. Yeah.
God,
as opposed to all 50 happening in the last week, like we're led to believe.
And look at the California temperature. That's I think that's Death Valley, right? 134 degrees. Well, yeah, that's what they're saying. It gets hotter and hotter and hotter. 1913. You might recognize that as 111 years ago.
You might. Look at
Texas.
Alaska.
In Texas, 120.
Okay, last week.
1936.
I'm sorry, that's not last week. Apologies.
No.
In fact, look right up the middle of the country, Pat. Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, South Dakota, and North Dakota all set in 1936.
And you might recognize the 30s as the Dust Bowl decade.
Yeah. Look at this.
Where it was the hottest decade of all time. They try to tell you that's the 90s. They can only do that when they go back to the 30s and adjust those temperatures down. That's what they keep doing.
Okay, between 1934 and 1936, you have Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania.
All of those in the 30s.
Just in those 2 years.
My gosh.
But no, it's right now is the hottest we've ever experienced as a nation.
And you also have 3 states that experienced these high temperatures in the 90s. The 90s were a little bit hot, but you would think, okay, that's when they started screaming about climate change so much. Well, you would then assume that the next decade was hotter and the decade after that hotter still, and this decade would be the hottest. But no, that's not the case.
So
in Nevada, it's been 125. That was in 1994.
So 7 of the 50 have happened since 1994. So 7 in 25 years.
That is something else.
30 years. 7 in 30 years.
Okay.
So I mean, we've been keeping records since, 1870 something. So in other words, all of the vast majority of the record high temperatures for states happened long ago, and only 7 in the last 30 years.
And this shows you that incredibly high temperatures in places you don't expect them, like Montana. 117, that blows me away that it was ever 117 in Montana. So you would say, if somebody told you that, the record high temperature in Montana, 117, I'm like, oh, wow.
Gosh.
That does seem bad. Is that was that yesterday?
131
It was quite a few yesterdays ago, 1893.
So no wonder the polar ice caps are melting. You've got Alaska at 100 degrees.
100 in Alaska.
Oh, wait, back in
1915.
1915. Gosh.
Is that amazing? The hottest temperature ever in Alaska is hotter than the hottest temperature ever in Hawaii. 100 to 98, and that happened in 1951 for Hawaii. That just shows what a great place that is weather-wise.
So 16 of the 50 happened between 1934 and 1936. I see California on here now.
I mean, that's mind-boggling. Mind-boggling.
Sure is. What a great job by Chris Martz.
Thank you, Chris.
I want somebody to make an all-time cold temperature map like this.
I'd like to see that.
Maybe he has already done that, and I'd love to see all the records be in recent years. That would be so epic, man.
You know, for some reason, I've mentioned Bozeman, Montana quite a few times lately. They have the problem with the Airbnbs. They're being overrun by wealthy people and celebrities, and it's driving people out of their homes. But in that article, they also mentioned, and another interesting fact about Bozeman, Montana is the weather here. the temperature has actually gone down over the last 20 years. Since the year 2000, the average temperature in Bozeman, Montana is down 1.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Wait a minute. That doesn't really fit the narrative, does it?
Maybe those Californians will start leaving. Burr, it's cold. I'm cold. Burr.
You can only hope for the Bozemanites.